10 years. 10 years since we heard Princess Celestia's voice say those very first words.
Once upon a time, in the magical land of Equestria.
10 years since our wonderful brony fandom started small, then slowly blossomed into what it is now over the years. On this momentous day, I decided that now was a better time than any to talk about my number one most favorite finale of My Little Pony: Friendship is Magic. The Season 4 finale, Twilights Kingdom. That being said, allow me to indulge you in some 2014 nostalgia. Let's talk about the first two main things that I think are great about this finale. Firstly, I think the thrilling and dark atmosphere is just perfect. Some of you may know that I'm pretty biased towards episodes, movies, and specials in FiM with high levels of darkness and things being at stake. But when it comes to this finale in particular, I really do feel that it was where FiM was at its best in that regard. The world really does almost virtually come to an end in this finale, not to mention the death of the Golden Oak Library. This is where my number one most favorite antagonist of FiM comes in, Lord Tyrek. Everything about this villain is nothing short of amazing, even when he's smaller and weaker. His deep menacing voice, as well as his intimidating design, which I'm going to go ahead and admit, yes, I do think it is a little better than the Storm King's design. There are two things that make Tyrek the best villain to me personally. Firstly, I feel that the show's staff went above and beyond with making Tyrek not just feel like a blank slate. Given how intimidating and memorable Tyrek already is by himself, they didn't really need to give him a backstory, but they went the extra mile and did just that. His backstory surprisingly gives Tyrek a side that you can sympathize with. Tyrek's brother Scorpan had turned his back on their original plan to steal Equestria's magic, and eventually handed him over to the princesses, which led to his imprisonment in Tartarus. I like to believe that Tyrek came back from his imprisonment not only with the intention of finishing his plans to steal Equestria's magic, but also to seek revenge against a nation that had effectively converted his brother, leading to his eventual betrayal. Secondly, and more importantly, Tyrek is the antagonist that came the closest to the finish line. Tyrek had almost won. By the final act, literally everyone except Twilight were immobilized, completely powerless to do anything. Twilight was the last one standing, possessing all of the Alicorn magic. If she didn't make the decision to have Tyrek also release Discord and not just her friends, Discord would have never been able to give her the medallion. And that would have been it for Equestria, along with the rest of the world. Tyrek will have found the other cities and kingdoms beyond Equestria eventually, and none of them would have stood a chance. I don't even think the Storm King and his army, which had already been invading other kingdoms during this time in the show, would have been able to defeat him. The other thing I love about this finale is how everything genuinely feels earned in the end. I feel this is most evident with Twilight discovering what her role is meant to be. This was not a cliched story of, oh, I need to find my purpose. No. This was Twilight simply wanting her role to actually feel like it mattered. And I find it impressive with how well it fits in this finale storyline. This could have been a shallow, slice-of-life finale about just Twilight realizing her true role. Instead, she learns her true purpose in Equestria through a dramatic event in which a former foe sees the error in his ways, and shares with her what he had learned about the value of friendship on that one fateful day. The tension and build-up also feel genuinely great in this finale. I like how we only see the full extent of what Discord had been doing to Equestria alongside Tyrek by the very end of Part 1, allowing for the infamous showdown that would ensue in Part 2. This kind of pacing is great because having things build up slowly allows for the climax to truly leave a lasting impact that one will never forget. Of course, I absolutely cannot talk about Twilight's Kingdom without mentioning the music. Sweet Celestia, the music in this finale is phenomenal, from the background tracks to the two songs. Let's talk a bit about the backing tracks first. I really do mean it when I say that this finale has some of the best backing tracks in all of FiM. Have a listen.
King!
Tyrek tricked me into believing that he could offer me something more valuable than friendship. But there is nothing worth more. I see that now. Lied.
Don't you miss the good old days before Season 5 where finales actually had their own special tracks for the credits to make them extra unique? Honestly, I think these clips speak for themselves. And of course, the songs. You'll Play Your Part and Let the Rainbow Remind You. You'll Play Your Part is a beautiful little song that fits into Twilight's predicament surprisingly well, and is notable for having all three princesses sing harmoniously. It is truly a memorable musical piece indeed. Then there's Let the Rainbow Remind You, my most favorite song in this finale, and is also amongst my most favorite in FiM as a whole. This song is memorable to me personally not only because of how good it is audio-wise, but because of how well it concludes the finale as well as the season. Showing all of the new characters that have been helped throughout the season combined with the lyrics of the song is one of the special, magical moments to come out of FiM that I never will forget. For me, Twilights Kingdom was one of the entries in FiM where the music was truly at its best. I personally believe it's fair to make the argument that the show staff have never really been able to recapture the greatness of this finale in the seasons that came after it. The cutie remark in Season 5 was great in its own ways, but Starlight Glimmer's not-so-moving backstory, combined with the absence of the actual main six throughout most of the conflict, kind of kills it for me in hindsight. To Wear and Back Again from Season 6 was just sort of average. On paper, it was a pretty awesome idea, but the execution wasn't very good in my eyes. Plus, this finale also started the trend of all finales after Season 5 not having any songs in them. Shadow Play in Season 7 is probably the only close exception here. It is my third most favorite finale of all of FiM. The build-up was good, the sense of suspense was better, the moral was amongst my most favorites. And it was also amazing finally getting to see Starswirl the Bearded along with the Pillars. Not to mention Stygian actually had a good backstory. School Rays in Season 8, I think some of you already know that it's my least favorite finale. Too many things were happening at once, and Cozy Glow is the lamest antagonist ever. Ending of the End in Season 9 was special, definitely. I did give it a blue glowing 10 out of 10 paws after all. But it was certainly questionable in some areas, with the whole Discord pretending to be Grogard the whole time thing, and the climax feeling like it just sort of happens, without much to make it memorable. It does make me glad that the last problem is the actual ending. Coming back to Twilight's Kingdom, when I think about the issues with the finales that came after it, the more I realize just how irreplaceable and special it is. When the credits rolled, I was actually shivering from the goosebumps that I got when I first watched this finale in bed on my laptop back in 2014. The fact that almost not a single word is spoken between Twilight and Tirek during their actual fight after the Golden Oak Library is destroyed really adds emotion to the scene, and is one of the things that really make it stand out amongst all the other finale battles. I will never forget that amazing rendition of the theme song when the main six defeated Tirek, as well as the excellent storyline, Tirek as an antagonist, the climax, the music. All of it is done so well, I genuinely feel that it can never be redone. You know a season finale is great when at some point it makes you wonder, wait, is this the end of the show? That was definitely the feeling I got when I first watched this finale. It begs the question though, what if this really was the end of the show? This is a question I am very split on when I think about Twilight's Kingdom. On one hoof, a lot of the controversial decisions that would have happened in the show's future beyond Season 4 would have been averted, and the show would have still ended on a highly memorable note. But at the same time, we wouldn't have seen all the great moments that also came out of Seasons 5 to 9. Twilight's Kingdom certainly still would have been a masterpiece if it really was the show's conclusion. But it's a very double-edged sword, but not as much as the other question in my head. Now, this is a question where I begin to have genuine doubts. Would Twilights Kingdom have worked as a theatrical feature-length movie? Honestly, I don't really think so. With the finale storyline, combined with there not being as many characters in FiM back then, I genuinely doubt the MLP staff could have pulled it off. It would be truly remarkable if they did, don't get me wrong. But I think stretching Twilight Kingdom out into the length of a movie would have hurt the story and its build-up in the long run. This is why I think the actual 2017 movie we ended up with works, because the story, characters, music, and overall atmosphere actually feel like they belong in a feature-length film. In the end, I think Twilight's Kingdom becoming a movie is a concept that's best kept as a fantasy. Now that you've all listened to me blethera on about my #1 most favorite finale of FiM, I want to say once again something that I cannot emphasize enough. This show, along with its amazing fandom, are the reason I am still here today. If I hadn't discovered these 6 ponies, along with their world in 2013, there would have been a grieving mother in Canada, burying her own son of just 14 years. If it weren't for these pastel-colored singing ponies, I wouldn't have had the courage and wisdom to persevere through the dark periods of my life. Friendship is Magic and the Brony fandom have done more for me than I could ever repay. Over the past decade, I not only discovered an amazing show, but also a fandom filled with some of the most welcoming, friendly, talented, dedicated, caring people I have ever met in my life. Sure, I've had my negative moments in this fandom on occasion, but I would always remember that this fandom, along with the friendships I've made in it, were all I had left, and still all I have left to this day. I can definitely say that my life really only begun when I discovered Friendship is Magic along with the Bronies. That is how special and valuable my time in this fandom was and still is to this day. Although the show has been over for almost a year now, I am not leaving the Brony fandom. Ever. Not with all that it's done for me. To all loyal Bronies and Pegasisters, thank you all so much for being part of this fandom. Thank you all for being a part of this now decade-long adventure. Never forget that very first day you discovered the show, what you loved about it. Never forget the episodes and songs that spoke to you the most. Never forget the lives you have saved or even just improved in some way. Just all the times you have made a difference in someone's life, both in or outside the fandom. This also goes for the show staff just as much. To Lauren Faust and everyone else who brought us Friendship is Magic, thank you all for the dedication, talent, and love you all have put into the show that helped shape us. Your creativity has made a positive difference in hundreds of thousands of lives around this world. May you all live long and happy lives. Thank you. As we all must not ever forget, friendship will always be magic.